I think, you know, every department has their own specific concerns that intersects with the other departments. And so the purpose of these individual department meetings is for us to kind of discuss the issues that are unique to what it is that we do. So I think just to start out with, let's just sort of have a quick, you know, roundtable discussion about what specific concerns have popped into your head. Like, for instance, it takes 2 people to move an armoire, and an armoire might not be 6 feet wide, right? It could be, you know, what about the shopper who goes out and buys a bunch of stuff and then it's needed on the set, you know, that day? Or, you know, if it's props, like, you know, how do we handle all these, you know, all these personal props that are going to touch, you know, numerous people on their way back into the tub, into the truck, et cetera, et cetera. So I know all of you have been thinking about this, and you know, why don't we just start with the first person who would like to go first, and let us know what are some of your concerns, and what solutions have you maybe thought of how to you know, mitigate risk with those particular concerns. Caprice? Can't hear you.
I'm here to help all the departments. I hope to be on all the meetings because as a location manager, I am in contact and help support every single department. So I'm here to listen and learn from you guys and help implement how you're feeling. You know, there's been already, even though we don't have the official documents from the union and everything, there has been discussions already in the white paper and the safe way forward on some suggestions how to handle things. I think that we're going to have a lot more pre-production, so that will allow you to quarantine not only props but also wardrobe. Is, you know, you guys are going to be hand in hand with that. So quarantining, so having shopping much more happening much earlier so that they can be quarantined before they're brought on the set. But I also think that disinfection, because you are going to be touching things, they're already saying that you do not want to be sharing tools and other types of things, that everyone's going to have their own tools. But also too, that there's, you know, disinfection prior to it. I've already bought some gear because I have a feeling things will come to set that aren't already disinfected in advance. So, you know, I want to not be caught off guard. So I've already purchased some things to be able to use to disinfect on the spot. But I'm here to help you guys and to listen. But those were just kind of my thoughts going into it, because every single department needs something from the location department.
So yeah, if next person up wants to just, you know, off the top of your head, what are when you first heard about this and when we stopped work and when you started thinking about when we go back, like what are the initial things that you thought, like, holy cow, how are we going to move an armoire? How are we going to, you know, distribute, you know, cameras to the fake press, or how, you know, all of, you know, just the initial things that pop into your head that you think have the potential to be unsafe. You know, what are they? Is that Liz? Do you want to speak?
I'm trying to see why I can't see everybody else, but can you hear me?
I can hear you and we can see you.
Okay. You know, sure, I'm concerned. I'm not really sure how it's all going to work out. It seems like for commercials, for instance, if you're in a location, we may have to stagger the art department as opposed to the other crew, because we're going to need time to do our thing. But then when it's time to change over, you know, we only have the full crew in during the big changeovers, and then have maybe one person or no people on set the rest of the time. I'm not really sure how it's going to work out. But I think Caprice is right. Things will be showing up that will need disinfecting. And I'm not sure how it's going to work for rental companies. For instance, you know, say Chauffeur's Furniture or Second Chance. Are they even going to rent to us anymore? That just popped in my head. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I would say even building on that, in some of the talk I've been doing just casually with other members of our department, you know, we talk about like the fact that, you know, set deck art department, we can kind of be almost like our own little pod, you know, together. Right. But then when you have the 2 or 3 people that are going to go out into the truck, into the world to do all these pickups, that's like a huge amount of, you know, it's a huge amount of personal interaction. And, you know, how do you sort of, you know, protect them? And then how do you protect their exposure from everybody else, you know? Caprice?
I think a lot of departments are going to have this same challenge. Like say, for instance, craft service. I think there's going to be people that stay on the outside world, and this is also part of the zoning, that right. They stay on the outside of the world, they shop, they drop off, it's quarantined, you know, hopefully like you guys are on the, you know, on the longer scripted things, you can have a quarantine period that, you know, you have a middle group and then you have like an on-set group, but none of us ever intermingle with each other.
I don't think that's possible in commercials.
Yeah.
Well, I think that finding that this is a good place to start figuring this out. So when solutions come forth, you can directly tell the producers, because the producers are going to be looking to you guys right. as to guidance on how to work. So formulating ideas, getting solutions that you can present to them, because, you know, they're challenged in trying to figure this out as well. And they're going to look to the experts in each department to figure this out.
Yeah, Lisa?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
So, you know, I have been out of the business for years and then started back in the fall. And I did, you know, maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 jobs before everything got shut down. And it was, you know, like, oh my God, why am I back doing this? The crazy. But just thinking, because I always just do commercials, and the craziness of the pace, I feel like the production is going to have to know that you can't make, you know, if you're on a location like Caprice, we did that connections shoot for TBC. I mean, we were all over 2 houses in multiple locations during the day. It was craziness. And I just, you know, I'm thinking, how is this ever going to happen? The pace that commercials shoot at.
Well, I think they might need more people. Some people that just do the shopping, and then some people who just go into the locations possibly.
And Liz, that is something that I was hearing from conversations with David Farrell, you know, that's happening on sort of a higher level amongst the union, that we think it means less people, but it actually might mean more people for exactly what you're talking about. Right. And I believe Lisa Marie wanted to say something.
Yeah, hi. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a producer. So oftentimes, you guys know, we're in homes, like people's homes, and oftentimes we're using existing things in those people's homes for props and whatnot. Has there been any talk about that within your department, and level of comfort with using existing things in people's homes, and not like how do you foresee that shaking out? Is that something that you think will continue? Is there going to be like, I don't know, between locations in our department? Yeah, Caprice.
I thought about it a lot, not to jump in, but since it is kind of, and this is why I'm liking these webinars, because everybody, like I said, crossed over. So I personally, from day one, thought to myself, there's no way I would go into someone's home right now.
Right.
I'm embarrassed to even ask any of my homeowners. If I got a job tomorrow that I needed a house, I would go and find an Airbnb. I would find a house that's for rental or for sale, that's lightly furnished, because we're going to need so much room. We, like I said on the
Right.
call this morning, we ooze so much. Every single department needs so much space that, you know, having an empty house would be to our benefit to social distance. So that would be my strategy. I've been on other calls with other location managers that are like, well, what happens if we are shooting at somebody's house and their kid gets sick? And I'm like thinking to myself, I wouldn't even be going into anybody's house right now. There's no way. So as a location manager, I would be scouting empty houses that they can get disinfected prior to the crew coming in, that we're disinfecting all day long while we're shooting, and then it gets disinfected again before it gets turned over to whoever owns it. And then getting back to Virginia's thing is, you know, there's been so much talk about this, is that, you know, there is going to be a slowing down. We're not going to be doing the no money, no time, high expectation stuff. There will be more pre-production because we can't sustain the pace that we were going at, and we certainly can't with all the procedures and protocols that are coming forth. So there's going to be hopefully a set, you know, we'll have a pre-production day where set dressing goes in and they dress the set. And that this is part of all the pre-production that everybody's saying that we're going to need.
And to revisit what Liz was saying about the rental houses, like, will they even rent? Will they? I think that like, you know, prop house, like, you know, LA, New York sort of prop houses are going to find a way to disinfect and operate. The local antique stores, who knows? But here's another thing to consider, and this is especially for someone who's a producer to understand, is that a lot of stores aren't taking returns anymore.
Right.
Like,
Ooh.
I went to CVS and I bought the wrong proton pump inhibitor over-the-counter medicine, $15, they wouldn't even take it back. It was
Right.
like, I literally walked to my car, realized I grabbed the wrong one, went back in again, and they said, we're not taking returns.
Yeah.
So the old go to
Right.
IKEA and spend $6,000 and then try and return $4,000 of it, it's not going to happen anymore right now.
Well, I think that, again, it's going to be planning, that the directors are going to have to do their homework and communicate to the crews. And there's going to be a lot more planning and, you know, having to do this stuff in advance, because you're not going to be able to do returns. I mean, thank goodness now Target returns, but
Yeah.
there's been other discussions, like the days of a director coming on set and needing a techno crane the next day is over. The producers are going to say, no,
Right.
this should have been this should have been brought up in the pre-production meetings, because we can't do that.
So in some ways, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, Bob, Jess, can anybody else, and Rob, anybody else have any like specific, you know, just things that popped into your head, concerns and
Look at that dog.
Hi, Rob.
Guess I've just been overwhelmed by the amount of return to work articles that have been coming out.
Yeah.
So it's trying to play catch up, and
All the certifications.
finding a board or somewhere it's like a general place. It's like, this is the latest link. Because I feel like I still need to study up on stuff.
well, there's our group. There's another one on Facebook called Reopening Hollywood, which has a lot of like LA-based people. It's another group that also, Caprice is nodding because she probably belongs to that one too. It's called Reopening Hollywood, and you got to fill out a little questionnaire, but they also post a lot of really great links. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
There's one called Where's Spot.
Called what?
Where's Spot.
Where spot?
Where's Spot. It's a Facebook group.
Okay.
And that's, you know, that's kind of gauged towards a lot of, well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say TV commercials, but, you know, again, we're going to, you know, hopefully see what other people that are doing it that have done some commercials before we get started, you know, and they're going to be the West Coast people. So, and like I said on the call this morning, I'm hoping to get Steve Blair and Matt Pitroff in 2 weeks to talk, and another director that's just done a big shoot and do a how we did it So they'll explain, like, you know, they just went through it. So what worked, what didn't work, what would they have done differently? So hopefully that'll help us getting into this. But I understand what you're saying, Rob, the fatigue of the webinars and the, you know, reading up on everything. It's a lot.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm like, it's like for the next meeting, I'm like a little bit more studied up with like the latest. I mean, last week, I feel like we've been bombarded by a couple links, and they're like, you know, LA is coming back, and I feel like, oh, it's work's returning tomorrow, but I know it's really not. But yeah, I'm kind of in here to listen right now, to kind of re-enter the work. Yeah, so I'm a listener today.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think just what popped in my head mainly was just the construction of the set, basically. What I mean by that is the groups. There's specific groups that are on set. There's a prop group, there's an on-set dress group, there is an on-set scenic group, camera, and hair and makeup. So I think the zone thing, or pods of those groups, props and hair and makeup together with set dressing as a pod, and then camera as its own pod, obviously, and then G&E as a pod. So those three pods, you know, have to coordinate to stay together in a sense of trying not to cross the pods, cross the zones. And that's not as impossible because we already kind of do that anyways on set. We do have crossovers, but really, you know, we've all had pretty much, at least I have, my upbringing in this business is, you know, don't cross departments, you know, that's not your job, you know, you know, but props and set dressing always work together. I mean, I touch furniture almost as much as the on-set dresser does because that's just the way I was raised. You know, we help out. It's our department. Our department's all together. But, you know, we will have to really be more aware of that on-set immediate area of camera. So that's
and I think speaking to that, this also speaks to the amount of time it will take to do a setup has now grown, because if what happens is if we break off into these pods, like Bob is saying, which is probably pretty similar to what's going to happen.
Well,
You know, each group of people is going to have the set for the amount of time they need to do it. You're not going to be on there with G&E and everybody else at the same time.
We do that. That's the thing. We already do that. You know, everybody walks away. The actors walk away. Props walks. We all go into our corners. You know, and you know, when they say crew has a set, you know, unless props has a reset, that's the only time. But resets are happening during takes. You know, if the lighting set, the camera set, the actors are on their marks. You know, the pod that will move the most will be hair, makeup, props, and on-set dresser. And then I'm just saying to you what could be the formula that we have to, you know, even fine tune even more is what we've been doing, really. We just have to be more aware of it and how we can kind of segregate each other, I hate using that word, each other to follow those protocols that we do when we set up a tape. You know, we set up do a setup. You know, we have, you know, and everybody leaves. Yeah, I mean, just like that's always been the case. You know, actors are gone, they go to their trailers. You know, the ADs leave a head PA there and they walk away. You know, it's really just a lot of things that we've been doing, but we have to be more aware of them, and then we have to figure out the protocol to kind of keep it that way. You know, that people leave the set when they're not working.
One of the things that I do mostly commercials, and so the pace is a lot crazier, and there is a lot more interdepartmental
crossover.
And I, you know, the other thing I think about is because we're dealing with the actors, you know, if we have to give them a prop to use or, you know, cleaning up after every take or whatever, that you're pretty up close and personal with actors, and I'm sure they're not going to be wearing masks, even if we are all wearing them.
Well, I think they're going to be wearing their PPE up until they show up on set to do their part. And then right before they do it, the mask will come off. If they're wearing a visor, that'll come off.
Right,
And
but
a
she's
little
talking
bit, it'll
about,
go right back on again, and they'll leave the set, just like Bob's thing, you know?
yeah, but she's talking about the fact that there's going to be different takes. And in between
Right.
each take, the prop set deck person is usually the same person.
Right.
And they're going to be crossing over every department. So, but then,
Who's collecting who's collecting their PPE from them and giving it back to them?
That's another job.
Yeah.
That-
right,
That's gonna be part of the health safety team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Per department, they'll have like a committed sanitizer wipe down person. Did I read that?
Yeah, and gloves and masks. I mean, as a prop guy, if I'm giving out props, I'm usually a second. So I'm always on set. I'm always with the actors. I'm gonna have a mask on. I'm gonna have gloves on. If I need to wear, some kind of PPE gown or something, I'll have to do that. And of course, everything that is handed back to me, I'm gonna be wiping it down.
Well,
the
the visors add extra protection. The visors, I
Yeah,
can see a lot of us wearing those, I think, on set
it's
too.
possible. It's possible. So also I think what I thought about is taking like those TV trays, those collapsible TV trays wherever you go, and you place everything on that tray for the actor. And they walk over to the tray and they pick it up and walk away, and then you take the tray out of there.
That's
You
what
know,
they're
that
doing
way-
at coffee
That's a
shops.
great idea.
That way you're not
touching it.
handing that to them in the vicinity, because I don't want to wear that shield. I mean, I will if I have to, but I don't want to. I'll wear the mask and the gloves, no problem with that, But, like we used to do with House Cards, we always, went to Kevin's trailer, laid out everything for him personally. That might become a protocol for all actors now, that all their personal props are laid out in their trailer before they even show up, which is what we did, and then we pick them up at the end of the night. That way we don't have to hand the most personal, which is watches and rings and even phones. We can leave them with them in their trailers, so we don't even have to, and we could have them packaged, that they're sealed. That way they know that they're clean, when they open up the seal, it's clean, and they don't have to worry about whether or not they've been handled a lot.
Also, the sound department is, the guidance with the sound department is all those actors will have their own lobs now. So there won't be any sharing of walkie-talkies between us. We'll be assigned that's it. They'll be disinfected, they'll be put in a bag. And then also any of their sound equipment, personal actor sound equipment will be solely theirs.
These are some great solutions. Does anyone else have any other solutions to some of these issues that you have thought about and foresee?
Well, I've done a lot of study on disinfection. So if anybody has any questions on disinfection, here I am. So, I think we will have, and then they'll be part of, I see it not necessarily being the location department, but again, we'll still be kind of part of that. The health safety supervisor and the health safety manager. I think what it'll be is the health safety supervisor will be more in charge of the goings on the set, whereas the health safety manager will be kind of more in charge of disinfecting things throughout the day and making sure they're done properly, that lunch is laid out the way it's supposed to be, things like that, and also disinfection. I do think it's important for everybody to have something. And if you're going to buy any kind of chemicals or disinfection or methods of disinfection, they have to be on the EPA N list, because they have to be able to inactivate the SARS-CoV-2. And also you need to know the dwell times, because it needs to stay on a surface for that amount of time to make sure that it is killing the germs. But there's lots of different other methods, making sure things are clean. because you don't want to put a disinfection agent on something that's dirty. So you're going to make sure that, you know, with soap and water, things are cleaned. Also, I know, and I've talked to Sirius and I've talked to Plus One about getting fogging machines, because there's so much gear that's going to need to get, I mean, can you imagine disinfecting C-stands every day? So if you're using a fogger, you can at least get through the stuff pretty quickly, you know, because
Plus One has foggers. Does Sirius also?
Plus One has definitely purchased some foggers. Sirius has as well. And yeah, so they are, but I got to talk to Adam too, because people need to know how to use those things and to what to put in those things. So, you know, just to make sure. I found another thing that you can fog with people and pets around that's completely safe, and I love that, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I think disinfection is going to be extremely important, you know, as we're going forward to keep everybody safe.
I mean, oh, go ahead, Jess.
This is just from like my experience having done craft services, and I know that set dressers deal with this on a regular basis. It's very simple, but like people are really gonna have to learn how to clean up after themselves. I don't know how many times I've picked up moldy cups of coffee and, you know, seltzer cans that have been left there for weeks, but people are just gonna have to be more, I know people are already gonna be mindful of their distance and the masks and everything, but like people have to clean up after themselves, because you're going to be putting that craft service person or the set dressers at risk, or the locations people at risk for that, who have historically had to clean up after other people.
I think we will have a sanitation team with us, but yeah, no, everybody, we're, you know, sometimes we feel like hillbillies, but I think we'll have a sanitation.
Moving a million miles an hour in this job, but like, I don't know how many times I've spent like a good half hour, 45 minutes cleaning a set because people just couldn't take that extra 2 seconds to clean up.
And thank you for that, Jess, by the way.
Yeah.
I would like to maybe mention some of the things that like our set deck department did right before the shutdown, and what we started doing, like, because every morning we would have our morning meeting, and, you know, we started seeing it getting worse and worse, and we'd start getting more paranoid and more paranoid. There's going to be these, you know, sanitation stations that will be set up with, you know, either sink or, you know, hand sanitizer and everything else. We actually had a wall mount hand sanitizing thing like they have at the hospital, like no touch, you know what I mean? To put your hand under, that was left over from the bathroom set. And Jess is smiling because she probably knows about it. We mounted it on the door into our lockup. And then whenever we went in and out, we just automatically zip, 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 just like a nurse in a going into a hospital room. We started just getting into the habit of doing that. So, you know, some of it's going to be behavioral. I think there's going to be, you know, and the weird thing is that within my own little set deck pod, I mean, again, I felt a lot safer. It was when I went out into the larger soundstage with all these other people and all these other departments, and I don't know how thing people are behaving when they're not there and everything else. And that's when I would get a little more nervous. But I also see what will begin to happen within each department is, I think, you know, you're going to have, like Bob was saying, you know, you're going to have your sort of like your set pod of people. But I think even offset for all the people that are on swing, you know, you're going to have your group of people that are going to be the ones that dress and maintain this particular set. And that's going to be the group that's just going to deal with that set. No one else, you know, and then the same as you're going to have the people that are going to be the people that do all the pickups, so that if, God forbid, a case does pop up, it's going to be a lot easier to contact trace that situation when you're talking about, you know, these are the 3 people that dress it, you know, that or take care of, you know, finishing, dressing, and maintaining the residence set or whatever. And I think that you're going to begin to see a lot more of that happen. I think that's probably a lot of that's also going to, and a little bit of that already happens even pre-pandemic, but I think it's going to probably get dialed down even more. Also with, you know, with paint and construction and everything else, where, you know, you have these groups of people that are assigned to the different sets or the locations, and that's going to be the group that's going to always deal with whatever particular one set that is. Anyway, any other, so I still haven't figured out how to move an armoire that's less than 6 feet without having 2 people getting closer than 6 feet. But I think, again, that's where you're going to get into the visor wearing and the mask wearing, you know, it's like, oh, we've got to unpack this truck, you know, the
Well,
extra
also,
layer of protection goes on, you know.
for you guys, you know, if you're working on a long-term project like that, your workmates are going to become part of your pod almost, you know, because you're going to be with them more than your family.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the pod concept is something that's going to have to really, like, you guys got to talk to each other. Like, you know, you can't go out swilling, you know, during the week, or really, you know, you're just going to have to social distance like you're supposed to be doing anyway. I mean, you're supposed to be doing it anyway. So, you know, and that's the thing, like, you know, with our group on our show for Missing President, you know, there's 4 people, and, you know, we all have a routine, you know, work, go home. You know, if it changes from that, that's going to deviate what we're trying to do. It's almost kind of like quarantining ourselves by just doing what we're supposed to be doing and practicing our social distancing. But also, you know, before I leave the car, I, you know, disinfect. Before I get back in the car, I put, you know, disinfect. You know, when I get home, before I get out of the car, even though I've already disinfected, I disinfect again before I leave the car to grab the groceries. Grab the groceries, go in the house, disinfect my hands after touching everything. You know, it's just like everybody has to have a process, and we have to just be, you know, talking to each other all the time. Like, oh, you know, I had this slip, you know, this is what's going on with me. So that's the thing.
Right.
Well, I
I
mean,
think you're going to see a lot less use of like day players. I think you're going to have like the you know, it's like kind of like how our little series set deck, you know, it's like we stay the same number depending on the amount of work. And even when it gets really horrible, it's still us. He doesn't add additional people, you know, we just have to find a way to make it work. I think you're going to see a lot more of that rather than, you know, a big ebb and flow of a bunch of different people every time. I think
But you know, you guys are really the only show in town that's really like that. Everybody else just does other work that's not long-term. So, you know, there's like everybody else in this area is doing short-term projects. So we're going to be coming in and out. So, I mean, I saw something else about Adam Hendrickson talking about the thing earlier about keeping a log. And if everybody kind of keeps a log, then especially for people who are doing more sporadic work, you know, it can be traced at least.
well, that was
I
what,
mean, I keep a calendar of everywhere I've gone, like Paul and I both, you know, in our kitchen, you know, if I go somewhere where I'm exposed to other people, I write it down.
well, that was part of the call this morning, which was basically we're all taking a pledge that we're going to stay healthy, that we're going to be considerate to our fellow crew members. You know, I can pledge to you guys right now, I am isolating at home with my family. I am not going out to doing anything that's high risk, and doing everything I possibly can because I want to work. I want you guys to work. And also it's going to be a bit of vetting. You know, I mean, I feel like, you know, if a producer is looking to hire people and they call someone about a job and they should casually say, so what have you been up to? Well, if they ask me, I've been home, I've been isolating, you know, I'm not going into big cars. If another person was like, you know what, I was at Sunset Cove on Saturday night and all this, is like, I'm not going to hire that person. But again, this morning's call was more about us coming together as a community. If we market ourselves as a safe place to come and film, the producers are now looking for places to bring their shoots where there isn't a big spike in COVID cases right now. And if we can market ourselves as a safe place to come, they will bring their work here. They're not going to be filming in New York. They can still cast in New York, come down just like they always have. But really, you know, today's call was about, you know, everybody coming together to be dedicated to one another.
And speaking to that, for those of you that don't know, there's been some talk of, you know, like signing a pledge when you start a job. And I'll tell you, we went to eat it for our anniversary at Petit Louis and we had to sign a pledge. So it's not anything that's like super scary or, you know, out of the ordinary in these times, but again, you know, it's an attest to, you know, the health part of it, which is I'm not showing any symptoms. I haven't recently been tested positive. I've been isolating, and that also I will behave a certain way on and around and outside the set to keep myself safe. And, you know, if you want to work, you're going to have to be willing to sort of sign this pledge. And that's different than the waiver that people are talking about. That's different. And that's the thing that no one should sign.
I like the porn analogy.
Thank you.
The porn analogy is perfect.
What is it?
I think that's great. Well, you know, they had an internal process of how they would conduct their business when the AIDS epidemic was starting.
Oh.
And they had to have certifications on set that they had been tested that day or whatever the parameters were. And so I was thinking like, you know, COVID, you know, work certification card, which you could either have it digitally or you could have it, you know, hard copy. But to say when you've been tested, where you've been tested, and then how long the duration is between testing. And that way, you know, you keep track of it. Also, you could have a daily temperature check on there. And I think that's something too, is that we have a database of the crew just to monitor everybody, because that's what we're going to have to do. We have to monitor everybody now.
Were you on the call this morning, Bob?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So if anybody wasn't on the call this morning, we're going to record it, and Arish is going to put it up on DC Camera's YouTube channel, which we did talk about the porn industry this morning. But yeah, but you know, two things, you know, making a pledge to each other that we're going to stay healthy, but also there are some apps that are out there. One is called Real Health, and that is one that where I don't know that the app is operating yet. I know it was in development the last time I looked for it, but it's the same kind of thing where it would be a record. So if one production used that, and I'm sure productions are going to have their own, you know, daily health screenings and documentation. You know, that's part of it. But us as TV commercials, you know, there are definitely documents that people can sign, and then also there's apps for that now. Of course, there's an app for that. Tiffany, did you have a question?
Here I am. I did. Sorry, I've been on mute and quiet. Hi, everyone. Because I have my two little assistants that are 4 and 6 running around. So hi, everyone. I hope everyone's been safe. I have kind of a two-pronged thing. Hopefully, I can keep it concise. But I have been working on my TV show lately. Not my show, but the show I've been working on as a set designer. And I've done a lot of commercial and theater, more so theater stuff locally. So I'm wondering what you all's thoughts are on the idea of people who can do their work more remotely. I know a lot of you guys are on set with deck and props and things of that sort, but it seems that an easier solution, even though it wouldn't be preferable, would be those people like clearances can stay home, graphics can stay home, set design can stay home, because we're in that kind of zone C group. And is it possible that that can be part of the new norm where people are just less in the building on set, and an interest to kind of keep unnecessary people and contamination around? That's one of my thoughts, just because, like I said, I'm home with my kids, and if I don't have to be back and forth without isolating from my kids, are these the types of roles that can shift a little bit in this new normal, or at least for the short foreseeable future?
I think that they can, and I think that there has been some discussion on a higher level for, you know, the sort of people that share an office in the art department. So, I mean, you know, like, again, if it's a quick commercial shoot and there is no art department office, you're working from home. You know, sometimes you go share the same space as the other people, but it's not 100% necessary.
Right.
And I think that, you know, I think that is something that can certainly happen. You know,
I think in the commercial shoot, it's a little easier to imagine it like a theatrical project, where there's just a certain point as a production designer, props person, the decisions have been made, and you pass it off to the performers, or, you know, in pre-production to the lighting team and everything like that. And, you know, this might be an opportunity. I know directors might not love this, but an opportunity to encourage them to be more communicative and decisive, and we give a lot of things in photograph, we give a lot of things in 3D modeling, so that we are less likely, even though I know that's never something we can rule out, but some of the changes, some of the last minute, some of those folks who think, you know, who can't see things until they're in the space, I can appreciate that there's different type of thinkers, but really trying to close that communication gap in a way where this might be an opportunity to do better than, you know, do better than we have been. You know, instead of here's 5 options, I can't return these 5 book bags to Target. So
Right.
here's, you be clear with what you want as best you can, and I'm going to try to read your mind and deliver the best I can. And I would love to see that chasm closed a little bit. And I just think it's hopefully an opportunity for us to kind of revise how we work together as different types of creatives. And I would love the opportunity to be able to come and go, you know, without kind of sitting behind a desk for 5 days and then suddenly now's the time where I'm needed on set. If that can streamline or be efficient, you know, that would be a great move, I think.
Yeah.
I wanted to chime in on that, just because like the past couple months with, well, not these couple months, but with President is Missing was my first time really being in an office setting with production, and really opened my eyes to how much paper is being used. And how much passing of paper and how many options and on all these amount of paper that goes in between departments and the hierarchy, it's a little overwhelming. And I just think about, I mean, are we going to have to put on a pair of gloves every single time we go to print something and pass something off to someone? So I think there's going to have to be a little bit of a reckoning of maybe like efficiency and not using as much paper and pass off. And maybe people are going to have to use tablets more, or I don't know how it's going to work, just because we're in such a visual, tangible business, and so much has to be put up on big boards. Like, it's a lot to think about, and a lot of people may have to break old habits.
Yeah, that's kind of been chatted about already, that, you know, it's going to be less paper, which is a good thing, right, Beth Bell? Yep. And yeah, more tablets. Also too, that whole office, you know, the production office, all the individual offices, you know, they've already talked about how we're going to, you know, work the copiers, you know, because there's so much machinery that's, you know, cross, you know, that everybody uses. So yeah, so there's discussion about that. But, you know, I've been telling everybody, it's like, you know, I always say this phrase, we got to learn to change our brain, you know, and we're all experts at what we do, and we've been great at it, and that's why we've been successful in individual careers. But there is going to be a little bit of changing our brains, you know, and just getting used to, and it's going to take some time, and everybody's going to have to be patient and have to help give people slight little gentle reminders. But yeah, that's all going to be changing.
Yeah, I think
we have
that
an AD in the previous meeting today. Like, should we have an AD in the next one to kind of feel like it's the main person we're missing right now? It's like the person that's staring at us as they're waiting for the shot at a different way.
What are you talking about?
Huh?
What are you talking about?
He wants an AD in on the meeting.
Oh no, there's ADs this morning, Rob.
It was? Okay. That's
Yeah,
what I was asking.
Department specific.
Yeah.
I was wondering how that went.
Well,
Like,
speaking of that, I would like to maybe ask you guys, you know, how do we feel about our interactions with other departments? And, you know, where the risk areas are, and what
the risk
can we do
areas are
to
the directors.
mitigate the risk.
The risk areas are the directors and the producers outside of production. Producers that are on set, writers that are on set, ADs that are on set, you know, they know the deal. But a director who doesn't want to stay in Village, wants to live next to camera, will be a problem, because there's an additional monitor, an additional area zone. And then producers, UPMs, who are not, you know, they don't have any leeway. You know, they're not Nina Nobles, and they're not, you know, Boris, you know, where they understand, you know, and that's where we're gonna, you know, that's because that's all gonna roll downhill, and it's gonna land on the ADs and the directors, you know. That whole mentality will have to change. If it doesn't change, it's gonna be a rude awakening when the crew says, well, find yourself another crew. and that's why, people like Nina Noble and Boris, that I I'm so grateful for, because those people are willing to look at actors and willing to look at directors coming into episodes from out of town and look at them in the face and say, no, we're not doing that. It's dumb. You're not going to kill my crew, So there's going to be more of that. Plus, as a producer, you spend $500 to save a nickel. It's got to change. The mentality of that has to change. HBO does it all the time. I've experienced it for years, and that mentality has to change. So it's going to force it, and they have to adapt, because the higher up they go with the more of a buffer of money and power, being able to adapt has diminished, whereas we've had to adapt constantly on the spot. So they're going to have to adapt in their own way.
I think
that's my opinion.
The issues with commercials is really, you every time you have a new client and director that are completely clueless as to what their demands are, and that's a mindset that is going to have to change. But I don't know how you do change that, where they want to see 25 choices of sheets for the bed, that's just not going to be able to happen, that they're going to have to make decisions ahead of time, whether it's through photographs or whatever. But I just feel like it's a mindset that on the client level is going to be really hard to change.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I said, people coming from out of town into our area to work, we've dealt with that all the time, until they get the idea and understand how the crew based in this area worked, in the Atlantic worked, and they either stay or they don't. They either leave the project or they stay with the project and they adapt. And I can understand commercials are going to be a lot harder, because those clients are, if they're not, educating themselves about this situation, they should fall to the wayside. But it's really up to I think this is going to bring the crew together even more. We're going to bond a lot more, because it's now our lives, basically.
Right. Well, I just was thinking about, you're talking sort of, higher on the totem pole. I'm talking even at the bottom. How many times, have you used the lift and then just handed it off to somebody else from a different department who needed it, or used the forklift and then, oh, wait a minute, here. So every single time you go and use that shared equipment, it's going to have to get disinfected.
That's right. And you'll have a team of people that are there to do it.
To do that, yeah.
And that's why I think foggers are great, because you can put the solution in there and you just fog real quick, give it 15 minutes, and it's disinfected.
Cool.
My mindset is just, it's not going to be done perfectly. It just can't. It won't be done perfectly. So I've got to kind of just reprogram my mind on set to be more focused. I have to just write more notes. I'll have to follow Rob Fix around and make more notes on paper to understand and remember stuff. But
well, and there, we have to also remember that there are some industries that are sort of going before us, right? And that have found a way to, mitigate some of the, like a big box store, right? They've been open the whole time, and not all of them have had outbreaks. So the ones that haven't had outbreak, what are they doing? My brother works in one. He wears a visor and a mask every single day, and he's constantly doing his, either gloves or sanitizer. So I think, we're going to have to look to some of these other industries and the ones that have been successful, and follow their model as well. We do have a very unique industry, but it's like an industry that's made up of bits and pieces of all the other, like hair and makeup is like beauty salons. It's like, so what are the ones that are being successful with mitigating risk and apply it, to some of the stuff we're doing?
Again, from what I've heard so far is, mitigating the risk. Again, it's the same things that we've heard before. It is masking up and washing our hands. Me and my department, I need to make sure I have enough hand washing stations for all of you. And that's going to be a thing when you were talking about sourcing out your rentals. Like I've been so busy, but one of the things on my list is that, and I did call one of my vendors to find out whether or not they've got hand washing stations. And it's a sanitation company that I always use for porta-johns and for hand washing stations. But to my surprise, where I was thinking I was going to hear, oh yeah, we have bought like 300 more hand washing stations. I'm hearing we've lost, 100% of our weddings that we were expecting this year, and we've lost a ton of money. So we haven't put any more money into it. So I'm trying to think of other ways of hand washing things. So mitigating what I've heard on all my kind of webinars about that, 2/3 of it is people's behaviors and 1/3 is the disinfection. But just making sure that, we have all those things for you guys in order to do your jobs. And a lot of that is just the masks and trying to social distance. When your furniture question, Beth, it's the same thing that the grips are going to have. It takes 4 guys to lift that dolly. And how's that going to work? And in a lot of that paperwork, they go to the best of your ability. When that dolly needs to get lifted onto something, there's going to be 4 guys there. When you're going to have to move that piece of heavy furniture, it's going to be, let's just do this as quickly as possible, as protective as we can be,
We have, we've got 5 minutes left. If anybody else has any other issues that you would want to, discuss in the last 5 minutes. Have all you guys at least had a cursory glance at these white papers or anything like that yet, or?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, like Rob, I'm playing catch up, on a lot of stuff. Because so much, I just put the deadline app on my phone just because I just felt like I wasn't following it enough. I'm becoming too comfortable on my 3-month vacation.
Well, I think that's why we started the webinars, because now's the time. Yeah. So, I think definitely there's a couple documents, if you haven't read them yet. Of course, the original white paper that came out, the Safe Way Forward paper, all those links I put on from this morning's webinar is on the links are on the Delmarva Surviving the Shutdown page. Also, taking that free course is strongly suggested. And then, Arish, you guys have the PERG document. Can you tell everybody what the PERG document is?
Yeah, the PERG document has been incorporated into the new white paper that has, the other unions involved, the Teamsters and IA and so forth. So they've gotten together and, come up with the master document, but it's, a little bit more oriented towards the camera rental industry. But, all of the same kinds of safeguards, but, different solutions that we can use to sanitize our equipment, things like that. So you'll see that in a lot of these other white papers as well. But I'll post a link to that one as well.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that one coming up in the future webinars, but it was more like grip and electric equipment, and then each camera house had their recommendations on how to disinfect each of the cameras, the red, the airy, all that. So, but yeah, I know, I really appreciate you guys coming on. I hope you can make these Wednesday webinars at 10:30. I think there'll be a lot of information, and we need to continue these conversations.
And I highly recommend people take that, the link I posted, which is the Practice Safe Sets. It's very short, it's very basic, but it is still, it kind of puts you on the right path of how you need to start retraining your brain, like Capri said. And it'll take literally 20 minutes of your time.
And it's free, and you get a certificate.
Exactly, yeah.
Frameable.
I want several selections of frames, I'm just saying. Okay.
Right.
I'm sure they all can provide you with that, Virginia, or I'm sure there's something in your house. So
I think we're going to need a discussion geared specifically, towards the retraining the decision makers, because I think that's going to be a huge issue. You're not going to be able to return, 8
Well, we had to
unopened
do
things
the
of
workshops. We had to do the workshops to go to work. You know, we had to do the sexual harassment workshops to go back to work. That was
Right.
mandatory, you know, so, I mean, why we're not making, you know, a COVID safety course mandatory to work in this industry, you know.
Like for everybody, you know,
Everybody.
above and below the line. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we had to do it. We had to do it for the sexual harassment thing. I've done it 4 times, you know, because I belong to 2 unions. I've had to do it like 4 times. So, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, well, like Dave said on the call, there will be courses that everybody's going to have to take when this, but they're in development right now, but they are going to happen. And I'm sure that even on your job with your pre-production, big production meeting, I'm sure this is going to be, you know, first and foremost, you know, what's everybody's on their brain. But I agree with you about, you know, and Lisa's our only producer here on the call, but I'm hoping that the creatives, and again, like Timmy Wolf said, a lot of those folks aren't even thinking about the stuff, but I hope it starts with the script, that they're giving us stuff that we know that we can execute, and not, you know, writing in something with 30 extras or intimacy scenes and things like that, that they're already creating things that we can execute safely. And then producers are going to have to get a backbone, you know,
Right.
you're going to have to say, look, you need to make this decision now, or you're not going to have it, you know. And again, it's those directors that they, you know, the old timers, Lee Bonner always came to set prepared and having done his homework. And we have spoiled all these people for so long with turning around things so quickly, no money, no time, still the same expectations. And they're just going to have to, or it's going to cost them more money and they'll learn that way, Bob, or, you know, they're not going to have it because it's not.
There's a flip side to that we have to remember and think about, keep just in the wings here, is that we don't want to eliminate jobs. We don't want to take work away from an entity that we have now, because that's happening already with virtual background, virtual sets, virtual extras. And so,
Oh, what are you talking about? The Mandalorian?
that's just, yeah, that's just a smidgen of what they can do. And that's the only thing, is I really don't want to drive a wave of ultimatums and this is how it is from now on. That's going to create a dissolve of professions, people's jobs, because we're about creating work, not about taking work away.
Right, sure.
But you know, we have to be safe. Safety is number 1. That's the rule.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out too, because like I said, you know, the mentality of the higher ups has to adapt just as we have. So.
Yeah.
Well, we're at our 2:32. So I wanted to thank everybody for attending, and please, if you haven't already joined the Facebook group Surviving the DMV Industry Shutdown, please do. Also, you can look up that Where Spot and also the Reopening Hollywood group as well, which will post helpful links. And, you know, get the word out amongst your friends just so that we can learn and be aware. And like we said, we can use the fact that the production people in the Mid-Atlantic, you know, care about COVID safety and are being proactive to learn about COVID safety and are, you know, thinking about how we can make set safe when we do return. And we can use that as a marketing tool, you know, based on, you know, declining numbers and everything else, you know, that we're going to be a safer and, you know, better equipped and, you know, more experienced place to work.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great way to tie it up in a nice bow, Beth.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Well, great to see you guys. Big hugs.
Thank you, Beth. Everybody's putting stuff together. Everybody's putting stuff together.
All right. We'll see you next week at 10:30 on the main webinar.
Okay.
Bye.
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 See you, Rob.